Hey there, welcome back to my kitchen. I hope you are all doing well and excited for today's video. We are going to be making some chicken recipes. All three of these recipes have never been made on my channel before, and I was really excited to be making them with you today. I really hope you enjoy them as much as we did, but let's go ahead and get started and I will show you what I made. Kicking off today's video, we're going to be making this white sauce pizza. I just started by preheating my oven to 350 degrees. And I had one very thick chicken breast that I just cut in half, or you can use two smaller ones. I'm just going to season both sides of this with some garlic powder, pepper, and some of this Parmesan ranch seasoning. You can get this at Walmart in the grilling section. Now I'm just going to add those into this baking dish and we're going to put those in the oven for about 15 minutes until the chicken is cooked all the way through. To get started with the crust, you will just need 2 packages of this thin and crispy pizza crust mix, but you can also make your own pizza crust or use a different brand. It doesn't really matter. I'm just following the package directions and getting that pizza dough made. Into this little pan on my stove, I'm adding in 1 tablespoon of unsalted butter. I'm going to let that heat up for a moment, and then once it's nice and hot, I'm going to add in 1 tablespoon of minced garlic. Let that garlic cook for about a minute or so until you can smell it nice and strong, and then you'll just want to add in a half teaspoon of black pepper and 3 tablespoons of all-purpose flour, and let that cook for another minute or 2. Very slowly, I'm going to add in 1 cup of milk in here. I'm going to add just a little bit at a time, mixing until it gets nice and thick. Once all the clumps of flour are out, go ahead and add in 3/4 of a cup of freshly shredded Parmesan cheese. Go ahead and get that all combined. And just a fair warning, this sauce will be pretty thick. Once the Parmesan is melted, you'll want to make sure that you do give it a taste. It will need salt and maybe more pepper. If you think it needs more pepper, add more pepper. You want to make sure that you salt this really well so your pizza has lots of flavor. Now that my chicken's done, I have it over on my cutting board and I let it cool down for just a minute. Now I'm just chopping it up into nice little bite-sized pieces. My pizza dough is now ready to go as well. I added just a touch of flour on the top, that way it wouldn't stick to my hands, and now I'm just going to stretch it out to fit on my pizza pan. Once your crust is ready to go, you can start adding on your sauce. If your sauce got a little bit too thick while it was sitting on your stovetop, just add in a little bit more milk and give it a stir. It'll be just fine. I'm just going to add this sauce all over, leaving a little bit of space along the edges for the crust. But if you like a lot of sauce, then you can add the majority of this sauce. If you don't want it to be too saucy, then just add a little bit and leave the rest to drizzle over the top in the end or use it for dipping. Now to make this pizza nice and filling, we're going to take all of that chicken that we chopped up earlier and just add this over the top. Just make sure that you spread it out as evenly as you can. Next, you will need a little bit of red onion. I just took a little tiny bit off of my red onion. You do not need a lot of this. Over the top of all that, I'm now adding 1 to 1.5 cups of freshly shredded mozzarella cheese over the top. Of course, add as much cheese as you want. A little extra won't hurt at all. I added my pizza into the oven and it baked for about 16 minutes. Every oven is different, so just make sure you keep an eye on yours at about the 12-minute mark. And just make sure that the center of the pizza is cooked all the way through. Now that my pizza is done, I'm just adding on some fresh parsley and then also some dried chives and some oregano. Last but not least, you will want to top it with just a little bit more Parmesan cheese. I did use the shaker kind just because I was pretty much out of the fresh Parmesan, but either one will work just fine. Here's what my finished plate looked like. I absolutely have fallen in love with white sauce pizza. I've tried several different kinds now, and I really did enjoy this one. I'm also going to link down below my other favorite one that I've made at home. It is so good. So if you haven't already, definitely check that out. Next, we're going to be making a vodka sauce chicken pasta, and if you've ever had the chance to make vodka sauce at home, it is so good homemade. Today we're actually just going to be using a jar though. I just started by chopping up one tiny onion. This one was not big at all, so if you have a larger onion, then I would just cut up half of it. Over to my skillet, I'm adding 1 pound of ground chicken along with that onion that we just chopped up. I'm also just adding just a little bit of salt and pepper in here for extra flavor. Now I'm just going to let these two cook in here together until the chicken is just about done. At this point, there was a little bit of pink left in the chicken, but that's totally fine. I'm going to add in about a 1/4 cup of frozen spinach, and I'm going to let this all cook together, along with 1 tablespoon of minced garlic. Once the chicken is all the way cooked, I am now going to add in 1 jar of this vodka sauce. Any brand will do, or like I said, you can home make it, that's even better. I'm just going to let this heat up for a few minutes before I add in my cheese. If you are new around here, I do type out the recipes and the exact amounts down below in the description box, so be sure to check that out. Once my sauce was nice and hot, I did add in about 3/4 of a cup of freshly shredded Parmesan cheese. I added in a little bit at a time, that way I can make sure it did not clump together at all. Now I'm adding in a 1/4 teaspoon of garlic powder and a 1/4 teaspoon of red pepper flakes. If you don't like red pepper flakes, then go ahead and skip that, but it really does add something a little extra in here. While I was getting this sauce prepared on my other burner, I actually had 12 ounces of bow tie pasta boiling. Once it was done, I did go ahead and drain that, and now we're just going to add that sauce directly in here with the noodles. Over the top of that, I did just add some freshly shredded mozzarella cheese and let that melt down for a minute. Here is what my finished plate looked like. I did add some parsley over the top with a little bit more red pepper flakes. This is a really nice change from your normal spaghetti night. If you want to try this out, I definitely recommend doing so. And again, if you ever have the chance to home make this sauce, it's way better, but this one was still really good. I just served that with some of my homemade sourdough garlic breadsticks. I've been experimenting with sourdough lately, and this was one of the first things I tried to make, and it turned out really good. Now Now we're gonna make this chicken and bacon tater tot casserole in the crock pot. I thought this was so good. This was my first time ever making this type of tater tot casserole in a crock pot. I just started by cooking up about half a pack of bacon. And I also took 2 chicken breasts. Mine were a little bit frozen, but honestly, cutting up chicken when it's half frozen is really easy to do. I prefer to cut up chicken when it's a little frozen. It just makes it 10 times easier. I'm just cutting all of this up into little bite-sized pieces. Now over to a very large crock pot. I am just going to spray this down really good with some avocado oil. I do not want these tater tots to stick, so make sure that you spray it down really well. Now I'm adding about 16 ounces of tater tots into the very bottom of the crock pot. Try to lay them as evenly as you can. For this entire recipe, you will need 2 cups of cheese. For right now, we're only adding about a third of that bag in here. Next, you'll add half of your bacon. Just make sure that you do chop that up and reserve the other half for later. The next layer is just going to be all of that chicken that we cubed up. Try to spread that out as evenly as possible. And you will need to season your chicken with about 1 teaspoon of garlic powder, 1 teaspoon of onion powder, 1 teaspoon of salt, and about a half teaspoon of pepper. Now go ahead and add about another third of that shredded cheese. Go ahead and add the rest of that bag of tater tots, again just spreading those out as evenly as you can. The rest of that crumbled bacon, and then the rest of that bag of cheese. Over top of everything, you will need to add about 2/3 cup of milk. I actually used half and half. It worked just fine. And then over the top of everything, I'm just adding some dried parsley on there. I turned this onto a high heat and let this cook for about 3 to 4 hours until my chicken was cooked all the way through. Here's what it'll look like when it is all done. The edges got a little crispy, but they definitely were nowhere near burnt. This will scoop out super easily as well. And I did get this little clip of the bottom of the crock pot to show you that it actually did not stick too bad at all. Just the very corners of the crock pot. And then when this was all done, I did just plate it with some broccoli and added some sour cream over the top. The sour cream makes it even better. I am definitely not a fan of tater tots, but I really enjoyed this dinner, and I will definitely be making it again. Thank you so much for watching today. If you made it all the way to the end, be sure to leave a flower down in the comments. And also, I'd love to know what you thought of today's video, and I would also love for you to leave me suggestions for future videos if you have any in mind. I will see you guys back here next time. Bye!